we're going to assemble the 2 rings on the 5 pillars. I'm starting with a large ring. And you see there's notches on the ring and on the pillar. We want to make those fit together. And kind of rock back and forth until you know that you're in the notch. And then what I do is I place my finger behind the ring, and once I have it lined up, rock, and then I press right directly on there. Be careful not to press on both sides and in the middle, because that could break the ring. Continuing on, I'm going to add the small ring to the pillar. The reason I do this is you get the proper spacing. So you don't have to do anything special to get the next ring in there. It just will have the proper spacing in there. So I'm going to continue on with the second pillar. Again, finding the 2 grooves, getting them aligned, and pressing them together with 2 fingers. Again, I'm going to continue with the small ring. So I've assembled all of the towers after printing, because sometimes there are some issues where you have a glob of plastic that makes it difficult to assemble. So I've made sure that all of them fit together prior to packaging and shipping. And typically the rings are snug and it'll hold together all by itself. Occasionally they'll be loose, but that problem goes away once we start putting on the filament, which naturally tugs everything together. And just press in. They should almost be flush when you press them all the way in. And the final pillar's going right in. And this is what that looks like when it's assembled. Now, let's move on to stringing it up with rubber bands. I am now going to string up the Vortex Dice Tower with rubber bands. This is the first rubber band that I got to work, and the first filament altogether that I got to work, and I was pretty satisfied with. I'm showing the box here in case you need to order more. These are great rubber bands. They're not made out of latex, so they shouldn't rot like latex do. There's problems with rubber bands, and I found a better filament later, but in some sense, it can be a little bit easier initially to string this up. Rubber bands are going to be a little bouncier, but they're also thicker, and the thickness can have a problem with certain size dice, and they can get caught more often. So how I'm starting this is, let me see if I can line this up so we can see. So to get the rubber band in the hook, you need to stretch it, make it thin. And let's see if I can get that. So unfortunately I picked a black tower here. So you stretch it until it goes in. Once you have that first one in, everything else kind of falls into place. So the other problem with rubber bands, if you have limited ability to customize how you string it up. And so if you have issues with it, there's not a lot you can do because you're kind of limited to the fact that this is a loop. So you can see I'm just kind of going around the base level and stringing it in. So I have all 5 pillars strung in with the first bit of the band here. And I kind of keep it kind of taut, but not too tight. The rubber band will bend the tower over time. And so where I'm particularly careful is going from level to level. So when going to the next level, I don't make it as taut as the other ones, because that'll put like a twisting force on the whole thing. And as anyone who's had braces knows, that will eventually change the shape of things that are malleable or movable. So now I got onto the second level, do the same thing. Every time you gotta kind of pull to make it thinner and stretch it around. And we'll keep on doing this until I'll get to where the rubber band can't do anymore. And what will happen is, what we want to have is to have the last band kind of stretch across the middle someplace. And that'll create a place for the dice to bounce. As you get moving on this, you'll see it goes faster and faster. The rubber band's actually fairly easy to work with, but because depending on how much you stretch it, you may end up with having too much at the end. But there's ways to kind of mess with that. And this here, I'm going to the next level. I'm going to make it not as taut. So I will just put it not quite as taut here. And I don't have very much rubber band left, but I do want it to stretch across the middle. So what I do is keep on going with it, and notice that there's nothing going across the middle just yet, but if I do just one more, then we have something going across the middle, as you can see. Oh, I have a dark box in the background, so it's kind of hard to see here. So there you go. Then you go on with the next one. What I want to show with this next one as we get close to the end here is I'd like that next crossover band to be at a different angle than the first one. And the reason for that is it gives the dice fewer holes to pass all the way through. And we get some maximum bouncage with those crossovers. So we're really close to the end again. And get just a couple more. We're going to stretch it a little bit to get that pass over here. And it turns out that it worked just fine. Because now you can see there are two different angles that we're passing over here. So we're almost out again. I think I'm just going to let it hang out right here because we already have an angle that we like here. So we have three different directions that those bands are going across here. I think I just might be crossing over one of the same places as I did before. I don't have enough to go three more. Yeah, I think I'll just leave it at that, even though it's not going. There are two more angles I'd like to see. I might be able to stretch it over there, though. Maybe I'll do that. Yeah, I was able to make that work. So I just stretched it directly across, and now I have all but one of the lines for forming a, let's see if I can get this lined up here, a star shape, a pentagram. So now I was able to get the entire star. I had to do a little bit of manipulation, but to maneuver it to the right where I wanted it to, but I got the cross lines going every single possible direction in a pentagram shape. All right, and now I have it completely strung up. And let's test it out. Perfect. Okay, for this next one, we are going to string it up with elastic string. The string that I'm using, I found on Amazon. Pax, I don't know if that says Paxco, elastic string. Anyway, hopefully, let's see if we get the focus to be a little better. Anyway, if you want to know more, just you can write a comment and I'll reply. But this is the material. Actually, if you just search for elastic string, it'll probably steer you right on Amazon. So to start this one, I'd say this is about as difficult as doing the rubber band one, but I like it better. The only thing the way that I did it that makes it maybe slightly more difficult is I start off with a knot, and I'm not going to teach you how to do the knot on here, but what I did is I looked up a fishing knot called the uni knot or maybe universal knot. And if you search for that on Google, you'll find a really good lesson on how to create that knot. And I created that around a pencil. The reason for that is it's way easier for me to manipulate the knot around this than within the inside of the tower. But once I have this knot, I can kind of just roll it off. And notice that the knot shape or the loop is there. And then I can just attach that loop to one of the hooks. Just flip it over there. And then once I have it hanging on a hook, hopefully this is all in focus. Once I have it hanging on the hook, then I can just kind of pull it tight. Later on, we can trim the excess. But now we have the beginning of our threading. A big difference between this and the rubber bands is you don't have to switch between rubber bands. And when you want to go do a go across the tower to make a barrier, then you just choose when you want that to happen. So this has tons of flexibility, and it is, for the most part, quite easy to work with. Since you're dealing with a long string, you do have to kind of watch out that it doesn't get hung up in the legs. And what I like to do is I like to make this taut on the outside. Now this is much weaker than the rubber band, so it's unlikely to change the shape of your tower. So you want to maintain tension on the string at all times. I have not experimented with a bunch of patterns here. I've been kind of boring just going around the outside, but I imagine there's a lot of things you guys could do and come up with. I'd love to see pictures or videos of different patterns you guys have come up with. I've been doing fairly rudimentary things. So I'm up about 4 levels now. Now I want a crossbar. I want a cross barrier. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go all the way around, make a whole loop here. And then I will choose which way do I want to go. I'll just go back over here to keep it going the same direction. And the other good thing about this string is with the rubber bands, all the cross barriers are at a downward angle because it's the nature of the loop. You have to connect up with the start of the loop. With this, you could make the cross barriers perfectly horizontal to the ground. And what I think is better about that is you have a less chance of creating a trap for the dice. Okay, I think I'm ready for my final barrier, and I kind of want it to go back that direction. Let's see if I can get it to do that. And almost done. 2 more loops around. Keep it in frame here. All right. So what I don't have mastered is tying off the very end here. But what I have been doing is just kind of going back and forth between 2 hooks here, just to kind of hold it into place. And I've just been looping things around. People who know how to tie knots better will do better than I will. And then once you have it done, you can just snip off the remainder. But let's test it out. Perfect.